Today's episode of Armchair Ninja Podcast is brought to you by Atomic Climbing Holds. You've seen Atomic's work in some of the most iconic obstacles on American Ninja Warrior, including Cannonball Alley, Area 51's UFOs, and Stage 3's infamous hang climb.
You're listening to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Here is your host, Rich.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Thursday, February 4th, 2016. My name is Rich, and with me, as always, is Bijan. How are you making out this week?
Woo! USA! USA! Told you, Rich.
You did tell me.
No, man, all the teams are great. I thought Team Europe had it, but
I thought for
never
sure.
count out USA, man.
Yeah, I mean, I knew Isaac could do it. Obviously, we've seen him do it, but I didn't think he was going to beat McCall's time. But man, he crushed it.
Oh yeah, man. I was watching the episode with my Spartan racing with my USA flag badge on my left arm, man. It was awesome. I was like, yeah, I feel so patriotic right now.
Oh, the crowd was going crazy. Like, they absolutely going nuts.
It was fun, man. I mean, it was so close between the two teams. Really, it's kind of sad because the team I always root for the most during these specials is Team Japan. I want so badly just one season to see Team Japan just crush it, man. But it wasn't this time. But man, I hope sometime it happens.
Yeah. Oh my God. We just wanted them to get some. You want them to get on the board. Seeing them complete the stages, like seeing him complete stage 3. Anyway, we're going to go through all the runs and do the lowdown on it. But yeah, it was a little disappointing for Team Japan again. I hope they do better next year. I hope they do come back.
Yeah, there's some reasons why they don't do as well as people might think, but may see or expect from them. But it's not necessarily to their fault. There's a lot of factors that are going against them in these specials. I'll go through it a little bit later on in the episode. And yeah, man, this episode was so good, though. There was some heartbreaking moments, too. Oh, man. We'll get through it, though.
Yeah, so let's jump into it here. So right off the bat, we've got stage 1, and they bring out the big guns right off the bat. Isaac Caldiero was the first guy to go. And then he falls on the jumping spider. Just totally blew me away.
I was not expecting that, I'll tell you that. I was like, whoa, we're going like that. Yeah, I mean, that trampoline was a little interesting. The way it was positioned, I don't know if it was positioned this way during the regular season of American Ninja Warrior, but that trampoline was the angle. It was angled very highly, and you notice a lot of the competitors that were falling on it, when they jumped, they were springing a little too much upwards rather than forwards, and they didn't get too much into the lip as much. And I think that played a big factor in it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that is exactly what we saw. A lot of people going up instead of forward, and you don't normally see. You definitely wouldn't expect with this level of competition to have all 3 of the stage 1 runs. So Isaac did it, and right behind him, Ryo Matachi, and then Alexander Mars. All 3 fell on the jumping spider, so Isaac ends up getting the point.
Yeah, I mean, this is an obstacle competition, and a lot of obstacles are about technique. And when it comes to just one small factor, and I could be wrong, but it looked as though it was a trampoline positioning of the angle. And it might have just been that small factor where the 3 competitors went back to their team and they're like, hey, this trampoline is angled a lot more higher than usual. Just run into it a little bit more forward and you'll do better. And that's why we saw the later competitors from each team do a little bit better. Save for Team Japan. But yeah. Yeah,
so the Rio from the Team Japan who fell on the first fell on jumping spider, he's only 5'3", so I thought, are we back at this again where it seemed like the height would be a pretty big disadvantage, but then they brought out the fact that they brought some taller competitors this year. So the second guy for Team Japan, Kenji Takahashi, they were calling him Kong, which I think I'll do too, because I can say that a lot easier.
He goes by Kong. So.
Yeah, I thought, okay, great. So they've got him. He can do the jumping spider, but he ended up going out with the propeller bar.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking because Kong is really good too. It was unfortunate that happened, but it's a lot of these obstacles are very, very new to them. I don't think he's ever dealt with an obstacle like the propeller bar before. So, a lot of these other competitors, well, I don't know how much experience Team Europe has with the propeller bar either, so maybe that's not really fair. But I think a lot of these competitors are trying out these obstacles for the very first time, and it might just be they're just inexperienced at it.
Yeah, I feel like Team USA has a really big advantage because it's the same course that they already ran. I really think the other teams should be given a chance to run the course once just to get a feel for the obstacles.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much preparation they have, if they can go through the course per se, or try out some of the obstacles, or if when we see them, it's their very first time running this course, because that's a big, big disadvantage for both teams that are, both Team Europe and Team Japan. And I really hope that's not the case, because that's a big, just error kind of in the production side of the whole thing.
Yeah, so in the second heat, as I mentioned, Kong fell on the propeller bar, which was awful to watch. Tim Champion from UK Ninja Warrior, he is a very young-looking guy. He ended up falling on the cargo net. I thought for sure he made it. He made it through everything else. He was looking strong, and then he ends up falling right at the end, which I don't think I've ever seen someone fall on the cargo net before.
Yeah, I think it was just a lapse of judgment. It's kind of like when we see David Campbell, he just kind of overlooked the obstacle somewhat and made one small error. Yeah, he's better than that. I can't knock him too much.
Yeah, so then I thought Team USA had it in the bag. Kevin Bull's already done stage 1. He's a really solid guy. And he ended up going out in the jumping spider, which is completely out of character for him.
Yeah, that was really surprising. I don't even know what to say to that one. It's like there was something going on with that spider wall, man. I don't know. Maybe it's just something in the air. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, Kevin Bull had kind of a bad night, really, when you look at it.
Yeah, he did. But he had a great team behind him, so it didn't show too much. But when you look back at it, he did kind of have a rough night.
By comparison, when we look at the next group, Drew Reschel had like a record-setting night. He had like an amazing night.
I thought he was a standout. I was like, oh my God, this is the time where he becomes like major superstar. Boy, he was really impressive. It's not just that he did well for his team, but he really stood out in the big highlights of the whole episode, I feel like. So big ups to him, man. He really did well when it counted.
Yeah, so running through the next heat, we had Yusuke Morimoto for Team Japan, Tim Schief for Team Europe, and Drew Dreschel for Team USA. So,
what a matchup, man! Just very quick, that is like a dream matchup. I was like, yes,
yeah,
they are bringing out the big guns early.
Yeah, so even I remember Morimoto because he was the first to ever do Stage 3 in the US. So the first time I ever saw anybody complete Stage 3 was last year when he did it in the USA or USA versus the World.
He is so impressive. He is very much, in my opinion, the future of the Sasuke All-Star competitors. When you look at the show Sasuke, he's definitely at the top of the heap. I mean, he won the show, obviously, so he's very, he's a high up. But he's kind of like this new generation and breed of Ninja Warrior where he's pretty much trained his entire life on these obstacles.
Yeah, and so it made it all the more surprising to see him fall in the jumping spider.
That was painful to watch. It had if you notice, every single member of Team Japan failed on a trampoline when it came to stage 1. And looking back on this last season of Sasuke, throughout the entire competition, guess how many trampoline obstacles there were?
I have no idea.
1. and the trampoline they used was quite different from the one they use here. It was much more flat, singular, and it's more square shaped. It looked as though it had a little bit more spring where you can go forwards at, whereas this one was a lot tighter, made for somebody that was a little bit more heavier. We brought up, throughout American Ninja Warrior and a little bit during Team Ninja Warrior, the whole point of trampolines and how much a person's weight can make a difference. And there are some lighter competitors on the different teams, so I don't want to make it too much of a point, but I think a lot of the competitors from Team Japan just weren't properly ready for these trampoline obstacles.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, that would make some sense. If it's not it's so integral to American Ninja Warrior, we think of it, or at least I think of it, as just part of a ninja obstacles in general, but if that's not the case in Japan, well, that makes all this make a lot more sense.
Yeah, and the trampoline obstacle they had, it was a gap to a cargo net. It wasn't something as highly difficult as the jumping spider. They just have a regular spider wall on stage 2 in Sasuke this last season. So I don't know how much the competitors from Team Japan were training on trampolines in their off time. I can't speak for it if they do or they don't.
Okay. So then next up was Tim Sheaf, who is honestly one of my favorite guys on the show. I wish we could have him. It's kind of the tease of the US versus the world, is like Sean McCall and Tim Sheaf. I want them to be on the show all the time. I want them to be on Team Ninja Warrior. I want to see these guys all the time.
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. He's so good. He's so fast. Like, at least we got to see him match up against Drew Dressel, because these are like the two guys where I'm like, these are the speed demons, these are the free runners, these are like the high end athletes. At least we got to see it here. But yeah, I'd love to see him on American Ninja Warrior. Him and Sean McCall, those two, just bring them, please.
Yeah, so he blows through the course, beats the course record from the regular season. Right, it's the exact same course, and he did it 13 seconds faster than anyone did through the regular season. So a minute 25 up on the board, I thought, here we go, Team Europe's got it. And then I realized, oh, crap, it's Drew is next.
Never discount Drew Dressel, man.
And I wrote down this quote because I got to chill. I rewatched it like 3 times just to get it written down exactly, and got to chill every single time he said it. He says, you guys want to see me go fast? I'll show you how fast I can go.
He said it was so much swag and confidence, man. He's like, oh, you have no idea, man. I'm about to show you something.
And he can back it up, and he did. Oh my God, I loved it.
Oh, he really, really did. I mean, he was so fast. He made an error. He actually fell on an obstacle or stumbled on an obstacle, had to correct himself, and he still made the fastest time. That's insane, dude.
Yeah, to fall on the sonic curve and have to reset the way he did, and then he still beat Tim Sheaf's time, which was record-breaking, by a full 7 seconds. Like, it's crazy.
I don't even know how you can go that fast. Like, it's so impressive, and yeah, big ups to him. And it's not just that; it's the fact that this is a guy that has a lot of fans in Japan as well. So I feel like more than anybody else on this show, I think a lot of people are rooting for this guy, and I'm really happy that he's doing well.
Yeah, I mean, really, there was a Palm Wonderful run of the night. To me, that was the one. I don't care what else happened the rest of the episode. There was some great moments. That was the run of the night. I loved it.
Yeah, man. He had to overcome a lot. Not just that. I mean, he lands straight on his stomach. I mean, in his sternum. You have to imagine he got winded from that, and he still had to gut it out, do the warped wall right afterwards, and a bunch of other obstacles. That probably was not easy to do. All right, so moving on, we had stage 2. So at this point, so Drew ends up winning that heat. So we have USA 2. Team Europe 1, Japan at 0. So moving on to stage 2, the first heat we have Stefano Gisolfi for Team Europe, Kevin Bull, and Masashi Hioki for Team Japan. So Stefano's the Italian climbing champion, and he's got all kinds of other accolades. Like, these guys, they did not skimp on Team Europe. They've got like the best climbers in Europe here. Yeah, well, that plays a lot into the factors of why I'm like, ooh, Team Japan has a lot going against them. Team Europe's, it almost seems like they're a little overmatched because, they're representing a continent. They're picking and choosing from different countries in Europe, whereas Team Japan and Team USA are countries to themselves. But at the same time, you have to pull in experience-wise, Team Europe, their seasons of a Ninja Warrior are usually on their first or second seasons, whereas Team Japan and Team USA are pretty much have like 10 years around 10 years and a good maybe 15 years behind them, respectively. So there are different factors, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of relativity that comes to this particular competition where you can have one competitor like Sean McCall who might not do well on one stage, but he's going to do amazing on another stage.
Yeah, it really lends itself to specialists. You don't have to be good at everything to compete at this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was kind of curious how they were going to do with stage 2 because Roulette Row really tripped up the field this season. So I thought, well, let's see how these guys make out on it.
Love the fact that they brought back Roulette Row. That is my favorite obstacle from stage 2. I love it.
So that's where Stefano ends up going out. So he did really well up to that point. He had even got a good grab on it, and then it just spun him around when he let go of that first wheel, and it just spun him into the water.
That wipeout was amazing. That dude did like a 720. That was amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what to say with that. He just did like a pirouette and hit the water.
Yeah.
So then Kevin Bull comes up, and as we mentioned on the last one, he did not have a good night. He ended up going out on the double salmon ladder. He seemed genuinely confused, when they asked him, and I like that he didn't make any excuses. He didn't, say like, "Oh, I was just trying to go too fast" or anything else. He's just like, "Yeah, I don't know. It was, I had a good pace. I was keeping the same pace I normally do. Everything seemed good. I had lots of energy. I don't know. It just got away from me."
Yeah, sometimes it happens, to the most of us. There can be many factors. Maybe you get an adrenaline dump. Maybe you just hit one of the pegs while going up the salmon ladder. It could be many factors, and it's unfortunate, but it happens.
So then Masashi came up, and I thought, well, this guy's they kind of pumped him up as a stage 2 specialist. He was brought in specifically for stage 2. And he spent an awful lot of time on the salmon ladder, and it just pumped him out. He ended up going out on the unstable bridge, which was unfortunate. I thought, well, if he can complete it, then they'll get their points, and it'd be a good start. I think Team Japan just needs one of those moments, right? Especially early on in the episode to kind of pump them up and get them all realizing it's not insurmountable.
Yeah, they just need like a good rally or something. Yeah, it was unfortunate. I was really rooting for him. That salmon ladder, it seems like it messed, a few of the Japanese competitors up, getting the angles right and everything. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, he showed a lot of heart, so there's that.
So Team Europe gets the point. Stefano had the the best run. He made it to Roulette Row. So moving on, we had Tim Sheaf, Tomo Kawaguchi, and Drew Dreschel. So Tim Sheaf, actually one of the more surprising runs of the night. I thought he could do no wrong, but he actually ended up going out on the unstable bridge. His grip just gave out on him.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's specialists, and Tim Sheaf, he's very, very fast. He's kind of like the opposite of the specialists when it comes to the upper body stuff. Tim Sheaf is very, very good with balance, speed, a lot of the lower body things. Grip strength tends to be his Achilles heel with a lot of the obstacles. Traditionally, when we've seen him, he tends to fail on obstacles where he deals with grip strength, and I don't blame him, man. I mean, grip strength obstacles are really, really hard, but that's where it comes into play of the specialists when it comes to this particular format, and it just messed up for him.
So then we had Chomo, and he noted he
was impressive.
Yeah, he was really good, and they brought him in. He's 5'10", so he definitely had the stature, so that the wingspan wouldn't be a problem for him. He's never left Japan before. I thought that was kind of interesting. And he ended up getting spun around on Roulette Row, but that was still a pretty good run, right? A lot of people did have trouble with Roulette Row, and he had a pretty decent time. So, it was definitely, he did a fair job.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tomohiro. I mean, he's got the body build for this particular competition. I mean, I think Team Japan needs more specialists, and this guy he's not really a specialist, but he's a specialist in the form of he just fits the body build, I think, a little bit more for team, these particular competitions, for some obstacles that might be a little bit more trickier for smaller competitors. And I'm not saying that as if it's impossible, because obviously there are a lot of smaller competitors, both in America and Japan, that can do these obstacles, but it might be a little bit more easier for him than some of the other competitors from Team Japan. And yeah, his story, everything about him, he has a lot of potential. That's all I gotta say. We might see him again, and I'm definitely going to be rooting for him in the next season of Sasuke. He has a lot of potential, man.
So, cleaning up behind those two, we had Drew Dreschel, and Drew did it again. Drew had like an amazing night. He did 3 moves on the salmon ladder to clear it.
Okay, I got to talk about that. His technique, I've never seen that technique before. Have you? Like, it wasn't that when you do the salmon ladder, usually you just bulk up your chest or a little bit of your upper body, and then you lâché with your arms upwards to get to the next rung. Rather than that, he used his entire core to bring up his lower body and kind of like even out his entire lower body, or his entire body in general, and bring the entire body upwards, and then lâché. So it kind of like you're kind of jumping upwards, and he just went up easily, like without any I guess struggle at all, a good 2 rungs. I've never seen that technique, and it really, really worked out well for him. I'm wondering if it's just something he's mastered by, training in all these gyms and everything, all these throughout the years. But it's a very unique technique, and it's very, very. I love the technique. I don't know what to say. I've never seen anything like that. Have you?
No, it was a little bit different. I guess I didn't notice all the details that you had. I noticed something was a little off, a little different about it, but I hadn't noticed all that extra detail that you got.
Yeah. When people watch it back, traditionally when you do see the salmon ladder, people kind of just like bring up their chest, kind of like a push-up for the salmon ladder. When he does it, his knees almost touch the bar before he brings the bar upwards. I mean, he throws his entire lower body upwards, and then he brings the bar up. And it really, like, his entire body gets the momentum upwards rather than just his lower chest. So it's really cool to see when you watch in kind of slow motion and rewind.
So he ended up setting a new record time, 1:34, when nobody had even beaten the 2-minute mark in the regular season. So he destroyed the record time from the regular season.
Just another natch in his cap, man. He is impressive.
So that's when they had been cutting to Jeff Britton a couple of times up to that point, and then we find out that he can't run because he has a fever of 103 degrees. Like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Like, how is he sitting there and not just almost falling over? That's a pretty high fever to have.
Why is he shirtless? That's what I'm screaming at. Like, put a blanket around that guy. Like, if he is that sick, he shouldn't be shirtless. That's all I gotta say. I felt for him. Yeah, we'll get to it later. Is this the part where they kind of show him when he gets the news? Yeah,
it was. That was pretty heart-wrenching.
That was so hard to watch because it just shows how badly he wanted it. They referenced it before with Isaac Calderon. It's like a lot of these competitors just really wanted to make it to this special and represent their country. And man, I fell for him. You have to believe like he really, really wanted it bad, and that just really sucked to watch. It was really cool to see his wife there consoling him and everything, but you just saw the passion in his face and his eyes, and yeah, it sucked, man.
Yeah, and I don't know if it plays into it, and maybe, why open an old wound by even bringing it up? But just prior to that, he'd hit all the buzzers, and he doesn't win the $1 million. And then the bonus consolation would have been to be on Team USA and then to have that taken away too. Man, it must have been hard.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, because this was filmed right after that. That's rough. Shout out to Jeff Britton. I love you, man. That sucks.
Yeah, I'm. You know what? If anybody can do it again, I'm sure he can do it. So everybody's going to be rooting for him this season for sure.
Oh yeah.
So that subbed in Joe Moravsky right off the bench and like, hey, get your head in the game. You got to run stage 2 now.
Poor guy. It's like no warm up or anything. It's like, oh, go run stage 2.
And what's he do? He beats Drew's time. He gets a minute 23. Like, just a crazy good run.
God. Well, there's one person I can do it. It's Joe Moravsky. He's so good.
Yeah, so he's still intact. He still has never fallen anywhere except stage 3. Like, this guy is unbelievable.
Man, you're right. God. See, that's why you're the host of the show, man. Those great stats like that. I never even realized that. That's a very good point.
Yeah, even in the specials, he doesn't fall in the other stages.
Mr. Consistency, man.
So after Joe, we had Kenji Takahashi for Team Japan. Kong again, yeah. Man, he fell in the salmon ladder. But this time, you know what? He's just trying to race to catch that time. That's all that was. I mean, you can't fault him for that. He's just got to go as fast as he possibly can to try to beat that time.
Yeah, you can't fault him. I mean, you're going up against a minute and 23 seconds on stage 2. I mean, you got to go as fast as you can. So, yeah, I can't blame him.
Yeah, so I hate how that happens sometimes, right? Like they go out early, but it's just because they're just trying to catch that impossible time that was set ahead of them.
Yeah. And once again, I think a lot of the Team Japan competitors, they look worse than they actually really are. These competitors are like really, really, really good, but I don't think enough American viewers necessarily get the grasp of, the level of competitors they are from these specials.
Yeah. So then we had Sean McCall, who I actually had no hope of him actually catching that time. I thought, well, there's no way. Sean McCall's great and all, but that time's impossible. And he managed to do it. I was beside myself. I couldn't believe he did it.
Yeah, props to him, too, because I just don't know how much experience he has training on Ninja Warrior obstacles. It kind of sounds like he doesn't do a lot of training on them. His main thing in life is much more about, rock climbing. I think he's the top rock climber in the world, right?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Yeah. So, he's very much made on this, or he's on this show to be, kind of a specialist. So props to him, because obviously he's going to do well on stage 4, but, and I'd expect him to do well on stage 3, but stage 2 is more of a question mark, and, he held his own.
Yeah, it's one thing to be able to do it. It's another thing to be able to do it faster than Drew Dreschel and Joe Moravsky. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure as well.
So, yeah, that was awesome. My team was in the lead. I'm feeling pretty good. So we're going to have a quick break here. We'll have a word from our sponsor, and we'll come back to talk about Stage 3. Are you missing Christmas already? Well, it can be Christmas all year round with Atomic Climbing Holds. Surprise your loved ones with high-quality and affordable climbing holds just like they use on American Ninja Warrior. Why wait for December to fill a stocking? Start a new Valentine's tradition and give your sweetheart a climbing wall in the garage. A box of chocolates says that you don't support her commitment to a healthy lifestyle, while Climbing Holds lets her know that she has a firm grip on your heart. Visit ninjapodcast.com and use our link to let them know that we sent you there. If you use our discount code of podcast, you can save 10% off your purchase. Okay, and we're back, and we're going to take a look at how everyone did on Stage 3. So, at this point, it's Europe 5, USA 4, and Japan is still 0. And the first person to run is Alexander Mars. Just a reminder, that's the Swedish Ninja Warrior champion for Team Europe. and he ended up going out on the ultimate cliffhanger. His fingers, I've never even seen or thought of this problem. He was jumping from one side of the ultimate cliffhanger to the other, and his fingers hit above the ledge, which caused him to fall.
I never thought of that either. But that's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of different parts of the ultimate cliffhanger. I think not a lot of people see, because that thing is a lot more difficult than it probably looks like from just. Well, it looks pretty damn difficult, but I think over this past year, we've seen too many competitors complete it where you kind of just glaze over the difficulty of it. There's a lot of hidden parts that just add some way more difficulty to it than it really seems.
Yeah, it's funny because as the competitors get so good at these obstacles, it kind of takes something away from the obstacles. You're like, the warped wall isn't so bad. Like, it's only 14 feet. That's not so bad.
Yeah, infamously, we're all like, "Oh, Area 51, that's an easy obstacle right there." Yeah. It's like, no, this special showed, it's not.
Yeah, it definitely did. So shout out to Atomic Climbing Holds for making some good obstacles. We didn't realize their true potential until this special.
Very true.
So the second run was Ian Dory, and I was really looking forward to Ian's run. I thought, this is his redemption, because I remember, he was so close to being that third guy climbing stage 4, and I was killer. I wanted to see him do the flying bar, and doesn't he fall? He made a one more leap better than he did in the regular season, but he didn't make it.
Yeah, I mean, he was so close. That was brutal to watch. Just like the anguish in his face, and then when he hits the water, just like the disappointment. It was unfortunate, but he, you got to give him props. He does so dang well, especially for his age. This is a guy that's still very, very young in the whole competition of American Ninja Warrior, or the sport of American Ninja Warrior, and I think he's going to look back at this and just, he's going to come back with a vengeance, next season. And I think he's going to kill it, man.
Yeah, the thing is with stuff like this now, that's just a great story for next year. So that just means that Ian's not going to get fast forwarded when he gets to stage 3. They're going to show the full run so we can see how he does.
Oh, man, if they fast forward Ian Dory, I'm going to lose it.
So he's got his redemption for next year, and I'm sure we'll see him go through. And then right after him, we had Tomo... Oh, help me here. Tomo...
You're talking about Tomohiro Kawaguchi?
Yeah, that guy. My writing,
the tall competitor from Team Japan.
Exactly. My printing on this part is not as good as it was on the other page. So yeah, he went out on the doorknob arch. Man, oh man, that was. I actually gasped. I actually like when he fell. I couldn't believe it.
For me, it was kind of like a glaze over. Like, I just thought he had it, and all of a sudden he's in the water. I'm like, wait, what? Like, what just happened? The announcers really made a very good point. They said that he might not have known that the last 2 doorknobs spun, and it really looked like he just kind of lost grip of the doorknob as soon as it spun when he tried to make that transition. So it might have just been maybe a language barrier error or just a lapse of judgment on his part.
Yeah, probably. It sounds like something that would be reasonable, because it didn't look like he didn't just lose his grip. Like he just looked like he got screwed up, probably because it turned.
Yeah. I mean, the way his body was swinging and everything, I mean, he looked like he was in full control.
So the point went to Ian Dory. The 3 points, which put Team USA ahead. So then we get the second heat, and it's Joe Moravsky versus Ryo Matashi and Stefano Gisolfi. So it was Joe's turn. It's like, okay, so here's Joe's chance for redemption. He's got all these stage 3 problems in the past. Even though he hasn't had a chance to kind of warm up, kind of pulled in off the bench, it's another chance for him to do stage 3. And doesn't he go out on the ultimate cliffhanger again?
Oh, poor Joe. But, you said it the best. I mean, he didn't have any time to warm up. They're even making jokes like he just came from eating popcorn in the stands, It's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like he did really well for, his, what he came to do. So I can't fault him.
Yeah, definitely not. So after him, we had Rio, and he was the first victim, as far as I know, as far as if memory serves me correctly. He is the first victim of the Area 51 UFOs, is he not?
He was, and watching him do it, his body size. I think this is one of the ones where, man, would it be easier if you were taller or had at least longer legs, man?
Yeah, it's funny because they asked him that too. Do you think that it was the height that made it difficult for you? He said, no. My strength just gave out. I don't know if that's just being modest, gracious. I don't know what you want to say, but not wanting to make excuses, I guess. Because it definitely seemed like being taller would have helped a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure even if you're shorter, you can still do the obstacle. It's just there's a little bit more ease if you are taller, I feel like, on these obstacles. And one quick note, because I definitely wanted to make this a point. During our preview, I completely mixed up Rio with Asa Kazuma. I was like, oh my god, what's his last name? Asa Kazuma. In my preparation, it was just a lapse of my note taking just being a whole cluster, and I was just like, yeah, when I make mistakes like that, I want to make sure I clear it up and apologize for that, because I hope there weren't too many people being like, why isn't the guy crying? It's like, oh, it's the wrong guy. My bad to everybody. I apologize for that. But yeah, Rio, he's very impressive. He's very much, I feel like he was kind of like the unofficial kind of captain of the team in many ways. How do you feel about that? It kind of looked like they used him to represent his team, and he was a good figurehead for their team.
Did you feel that way? I didn't get that, but then I'm not as familiar with them. I guess I'm just going by what, ANW was feeding me, so I kind of got the impression that I think they kind of built up Kong as the veteran who was kind of keeping them all, trying to keep their spirits up. Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the other part. I was like, it's either going to be Rio or Kong, and in the thing, because I was like, they both kind of are presenting them both as like, the kind of like the voices for it, and you can really make the argument for either one. I'm not, either one. I'm not really going to argue, but I'm glad they had kind of like figureheads for it. With that said, I almost feel like, man, Yusuke Morimoto, he's kind of soft-spoken, so I understand why they didn't. But in terms of like pure skill, and if they wanted to build up somebody as like the next level of competitor, they really could have done better hyping up Yusuke Morimoto and his accolades. Because when you look at his rap sheet of accolades, he's got a lot of very impressive, I guess, things under his belt that they really didn't highlight. They kind of gloss over it. It's like, oh yeah, he achieved total victory in Japan. Like, they kind of just gloss over. It's like, no, he's did that, and he's one of like 4 people that's ever done it in 32 seasons. That's a big deal, and they kind of just gloss over the fact that he's been training all his life and that he kind of like lives this entire sport. I feel like they could have hyped him up better, and I certainly hope they do next year.
Okay, so heading into the final heat, we've got Team Europe at 8 points, Team USA is 7, and Japan is still at 0. So USA has to win. If Japan or Europe wins the whole thing again. What were you thinking at that point? Did you think you had it? Did you think Isaac was going to pull it off?
Ooh, yeah, I kind of did.
Did you?
I feel like Isaac is kind of like a specialist in many ways, and I don't want to undersell him, but I feel like the 2 things that are going to make him mess up are going to be the first 2 stages. But if he makes it to stage 3, he has it in the bag. That's kind of like my perception of it. And I feel that kind of the same way about Sean McCall. He's just kind of like made, like everything about him is kind of like built up for stage 3. So I was like, yeah, this guy's going to kill it.
Yeah, I was just thinking that last year, Sean McCall, he ended up falling on the flying bar, but up to that point, he had just a dementedly fast time. Like, he was way ahead of anybody else that even came close to. So I thought he was going to blow away the time again this year.
Well, I can't argue that. I mean, he's pretty much like, Isaac Cardio, Isaac 2.0 in many ways, but kind of even faster in many parts, right?
Yeah. So, well, let's take a look at, and I thought, if anything, we knew Morimoto could do it too. So I thought maybe Morimoto would pull it off, and that would be I thought that would be a really great ending if he ended up winning the last heat, putting them on the board, and then Team Europe wins. So, I mean, it was like a win-win for me.
I would have loved that.
So he did complete it, which was great. He finished it with in 6:29, which was a good time, but not good enough, unfortunately.
The first competitor ever in American Ninja Warrior to complete Stage 3 twice in a row.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So, and this was a much harder Stage 3. It was kind of mentioned more than once that this Stage 3 was harder than last year's.
Oh, yeah. Man, this is a very tough stage, especially if you're not experienced with a lot of grip strength obstacles. That's going to really, like, there are a lot of obstacles in this one that's just going to just drain your grip.
I was just thinking, too, that this particular Stage 3, think of, there was more people that tried it this past season than had ever, I think. Well, it was a lot. I think it was like 8.
Yeah.
Isaac made it through. Jeff Britton just barely, like just on his fingertips, made it through. But that was it, right? And then when we get to this, Ian had a second try. Joe Moravsky had another try, and they were all failing. And Morimoto comes in and does it a second time. So it was looking really good at that point. It was like, wow, like this guy is serious. He was still able to beat this harder course.
Yeah. Even if he didn't get the fastest time, he's so good. And especially about the fact that when you realize the fact that he's not a world-class rock climber like the other two competitors that he's going against, it just accentuates the impressiveness of what he did even more so.
That is a fantastic point, which I hadn't even considered. Those two are like designed for this course, right? So Sean McCall gets up there, and I love the little rest he takes after the hang climb when he just kind of braces his knees in between the obstacles. That was awesome.
Yeah, Sean McCall, he was pretty cool with that.
Yeah. So he got his redemption. He managed to beat the flying bar, and he put up a time of 5:42. So I was like, all right, so we're looking good. I just got to trust that Isaac can't do it as fast. And then I thought about it, and I realized that's probably wishful thinking. And it was, because he did awesome, and the crowd was going absolutely nuts as he did it.
Yeah, I think it benefited Isaac by the fact that he went last, because he kind of knew that he had to push the pace a little bit more. I kind of felt like Sean took a little bit too much of a break, and I don't blame him. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was drained. But, yeah, I felt like Isaac really knew to himself that he had to really push himself to the fullest. So,
yeah, it was a great ending to the night. Even though my pick didn't win, it was still an awesome episode. Absolutely loved it. I couldn't script it any better, really. When you think about it, it had like a picture-perfect ending. Isaac, the American Ninja Warrior champion, comes through in the end and wins the whole thing for the team.
Yeah, I mean, it was perfect. And this guy is geared for superstardom. Like, next season, him and Jeff Britton are going to be just all the way out. And I'm glad that he won it for the team, because I felt like he kind of got a little bit of a backlash, undeserved in my opinion, after this last season where he won the $1 million. I felt like some people kind of like targeted him, where it really wasn't his fault that he won, the whole thing. People were kind of like throwing shade at him. So I'm just so glad that he had this chance to represent Team America, win it for his team, and just show a lot of heart and humbleness in victory. He was really cool in victory, I felt like. Yeah,
he said this was actually his goal for this season, was to, I mean, obviously they're always trying for total victory, but he really just wanted to compete for Team USA and beat Stage 3 for them, and he got to do that too. So that's just like one more thing. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, all around, it was a really good episode. Couldn't I couldn't do it any better, like imagine it any better. I would have hoped for more Team Japan, a little bit more victories from them, but in terms of the competition between Team America and Team Europe, it was so close throughout the entire episode. A great ending and really good matchups. I got to hand it to the producers and the in choosing the teams and the matchups where they put like certain competitors against each other that are known for certain specialties, like the rock climbers against each other, the super speed guys, against each other. It really made for some really good matchups.
Yeah, it was just so unfortunate that Jeff couldn't compete, because I think that would have made it even that much better. But
that would have been amazing.
Yeah. All right, Bijan, you wanted to kind of talk a bit about Team Japan's struggle, so go ahead and kind of give us a rundown, if you could, of why you think they've been having some trouble the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, so for people I don't know, there's kind of a slew of hidden factors that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to Team Japan and them dealing with with all these specials and everything. One big factor that I don't think a lot of people really realize is there is a factor of jet lag, and I don't want to use it as an excuse, but it is very prevalent in a lot of sports, especially in MMA, because you see it more often, where Asian competitors fly out to America and they just aren't the same. Their flights to America are a lot longer than a lot of the other competitors, especially the American competitors, where they're not really, if they are flying out, it's like a 1-2 hour flight. Team Japan, it's almost a day-long flight, and it really taxes them. Team Japan, they're less astute in terms of specialists. They don't specialize in one thing, a lot of these competitors. A lot of them represent a lot from what Sasuke really is, where it is just regular average Joes. They have regular jobs. Like, for instance, Tomohiro Kawaguchi, he's just a truck driver. He probably goes to the gym, trains and everything, but it's a lot of these competitors, while they train, I doubt they're training every single day at these top-notch ninja gyms and doing all these very specialized athletic things like rock climbing, free running, all these things that a lot of these other competitors are specialized at. Also, I guess the best point that I want to make when it comes to this is, if you were to have every single competitor throughout this entire special, all of them, and they all flew out to Japan and they all competed on Sasuke, or even, say, an American Ninja Warrior course, my number one pick out of all of them isn't going to be Isaac Caldiero. It isn't going to be Sean McCall. It isn't going to be any of those guys, not Drew Dreschel. My top pick is going to be Yasuke Morimoto, because this is a guy that knows how to do stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, and at a very high rate, and he's got experience of winning the thing, and he's been training all of his life. So when you have Sean McCall, he's great at stage 3, he's great at stage 4. I don't know how well he's going to do on something like stage 1. And even if he does do well on stage 1, I'm still going to think 9 times out of 10 Yasuke is going to do better than him when it comes to the entire competition. So just next time you look at these competitors from Japan competing on these specials, do realize that there are many, many factors going against them competing against these other competitors that are a little bit more fresher, that have a lot more experience on these particular obstacles. And another thing is, Sasuke, some of the obstacles, they've never, the Japanese competitors, they've never dealt with these obstacles in Sasuke. The butterfly wall, it's not there on Sasuke. And there's quite a few, like roulette row, that there's no such thing as that in Sasuke. So a lot of these obstacles, they're just doing it for the first time. And as all of you have seen, the first time a lot of these competitors hit a particular obstacle, they usually fail because it uses a certain level of technique. So there's various factors going against Team Japan, unfortunately. And yeah, I can't blame the producers or anything due to it. It's just unfortunate circumstances, but there's many reasons why Team Japan doesn't do as well as they should, and trust me when I say they are much, much better if you were to see them at their 100% doing, the show in Japan. They're gonna they're just a lot better.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it sometimes, because it almost seems like, looking back to, and they have compared this to the Olympics a few times, whether that's fair or not, I don't know, but I just remember when the American Olympic team for basketball, they were allowed to bring in professionals. It's kind of what it feels like sometimes in this competition. We've got professionals going up against the talented amateurs that have dedicated their lives to it, but as much as they can, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a perfect analogy. I love it.
So, yeah, I think everybody wants to see Team Japan succeed. I at least get that from the crowd and from the other competitors. Everyone wants them to succeed. So I'm hoping we can find a way to balance it out a little bit. Maybe American Ninja Warrior can bring them in a couple days early so they can run it the same night as the other competitors to get that, that first run in and to talk about strategy and to get that added benefit of, having some time to work out the jet lag, like you said, because I'm sure that must be a factor. I wouldn't want to try to do that. I wouldn't want to fly to Europe.
Let them try out the course. I don't know if they can't, if they, I might be just speaking out of my, out of turn, but I don't know how much experience they had trying out these obstacles.
I'm willing to bet they didn't have any. I mean, it just seems very unlikely that they had a chance to try them.
Yeah, not just that. I mean, there's a language barrier too, where I don't know how much, support they can get from other competitors or advice they can get from other competitors. Whereas, somebody like Drew Dreschel, I'm sure most of these obstacles, he's like, oh, I do this every day at a gym. I'm not knocking Drew Dreschel. And another thing, when we say amateurs for Team Japan, I don't want it to sound like a negative. One of the main reasons I love Sasuke and the main draw of Sasuke is that it isn't, some high level athlete doing these things. It's, shoe salesman winning twice. It's a fisherman winning once and being one of the most popular people. Or I'm just Makoto Nagano, fisherman. Yuri, I forget his name, but he won twice. Yusuke, he's a student. Tomohiro, he's a truck driver. These are just average Joes, and they do all these extraordinary feats. They do this competition where you wouldn't expect them to do it because these aren't these Olympic level athletes like a lot of the other representatives of the other teams. And it's kind of biased because there are a lot of representations of that in American Ninja Warrior, but you also see a lot of people that even if, hey, I do this job on the side, hey, I'm still this super high decorated athlete also, when it comes to American Ninja Warrior, where you don't see that as much in Sasuke.
What really surprised me is the thing that we were kind of anticipating most about this is, kind of why did they take so long to put it out? We thought, well, then maybe it's their way of leading into Team Ninja Warrior, right? Put it out, draw in some fans for American Ninja Warrior, drive some traffic over to the other network. But I didn't see anything indicating Team Ninja Warrior, did you?
I saw one small TV spot, and that's it. One little commercial, and if you're fast forwarding through the commercials like me, you barely even see it. It was a very short commercial. It was very surprising. Not just that, I mean, I hardly saw many advertisements for the special in general on NBC leading up to it. So, yeah, that was disappointing to see.
Yeah, I don't get it. Everything seemed to be indicating that. They even had, this coming week's, or this week, by the time you listen to this, it would have already aired, with Brent and Casey being the episode seemed like it was deliberate, right? We'll drive some traffic over to Brent and Casey. Everybody wants to see them compete. And no, not really. They had the little tiny commercial. They should have been hyping it during the show, right? Like where you're not skipping the commercials. Just take one of those little segments and throw a shout out to Esquire.
Yeah, I mean, you'd expect them to be all over this episode, maybe interviewing Casey, be like, "Hey, what do you think about this competition?" You know, all this stuff, being like, "Hey, you can see us, you know, compete at Team Ninja Warrior, you know, this Tuesday on Esquire." Now, they really didn't use this as a platform to promote it. And, you know, this was recorded a long time ago. I don't know how much planning they had for Team Ninja Warrior, or even if it was, you know, I guess accepted as something they were going to do at the time that they filmed this. But even after the fact, they could have used more commercials or maybe some more advertising in the commentary, because, you know, they do go back and redo some of the commentary. I would have expected a little bit more love given to Team Ninja Warrior.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, but, you know, it's a Focus special. I can't, you know, maybe they just wanted to keep it straight up on this.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it was good anyway. We loved it. Can't say enough good about it. So in case it isn't obvious that how long this is going, and the fact that we didn't mention Team Ninja Warrior up until now, we're actually separating this into two podcasts for this week. So if you're listening to this now, we are going to have another episode out for Team Ninja Warrior. But before we wrap this one up, I just wanted to kind of give a quick shout out to the Wolfpack Ninja podcast for those that have been waiting for it. We did mention it on a previous episode. So Noah Kaufman, Ian Dory, Brian Arnold, and Megan Martin have put out a podcast. There's 3 episodes at this point that have been released. It's on iTunes. Definitely check it out. I've listened to all 3 episodes. Love it. It's great. It's actually good that they waited, because if they had put that out first, I might not have started one, because I just wanted an American Ninja Warrior podcast.
Yeah. So like, what kind of things do they cover in their podcast? I haven't heard it yet, but I'm going to hopefully by the next episode. Like, what kind of things do they cover? So
they all kind of take up their specialties. I like how they kind of broke it out that way. So, and I don't have notes in this, so I'm going from memory. Bear with me. So, Ian Dory is covering training tips. So he's kind of giving out some advice on training. Noah's giving nutrition and health advice. Brian is answering questions from listeners, and Megan is specializing in tips for women.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting. They're doing interviews. I love Noah does some pretty great interviews. I'm kind of jealous. He seemed to be able to pick it up a lot faster than I could. So in the first few episodes, he interviewed, let me think. So there was definitely Flip Rodriguez and Matt Eisman. But they have plans for interviews with Casey Catanzaro, Kevin Bull, a whole slew of ninjas, Drew Dreschel.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's going to be great. I can't wait to hear them. So yeah, subscribe to them. And while you're at it, subscribe to us if you haven't already. So whatever podcast app you're using, subscribe, and you can listen to us every week, sometimes twice a week like this week. And throw us up a rating. If you enjoy it, definitely let us know. Send us some feedback if you'd like at rich@ninjapodcast.com or at Ninja Podcast on Twitter.
Yeah, can't wait to hear it. Sounds like fun times. Send us some love, send them some love, and yeah, it's good times.
All right, so once again, thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
Peace.
A special thanks to Kathleen Martin for the song Player v Player Remastered from Bandcamp.com.
Thank you all for listening, and have a lovely day.